and you'd all come up with it. And you'd all come up with several. I think immediately Gary Harvey. Gary was my high school ag instructor. He was an Okie, and he was teaching at my little high school where I was, and he got me interested. And he kind of hooked me in. And we went to judging contests and speech contests, and he believed in me before I believed in myself. And that's a quote I take from Kevin Durant. But that was what Gary Harvey did for me. And I think that's what most teachers do for people, is they believe in them before they believe in themselves. And all of you can think about this. Some of you have a tear in your eye now thinking about that person that did that for you. And that's what's so wonderful about education. That's why Kansans love education so much, and we put so much of our funding into education. It's because we believe in it. We know what it does for people. That's why Phyllis is investing. We're putting in TANF dollars on getting kids to be able to read, because if they can't read, it just shuts down their education possibilities. That's why we're putting dollars into the JAG program, because if we can get that kid across the line to graduate from high school, they've got a much better shot at the future than if they don't make it across that line. And then we're unfortunately likely to see them in other government programs that are not so favorable. I was at Dean Coco's sign-up program when you had the college sign-up. You guys, I hope you do that again this year. You're going to, Dean? We had National Letter of Intent Signing Day for kids going to technical education in high school, which I love. It's always, you know, the kids are great athletes, they get the recognition, and that's fine. But this is a lot of students that were there, and I was meeting with some of the parents in the line, and one of them was saying, thank you, this has given my child an option and a focus for the future. She can get her CNA now, and about half of these students we've got going into this program the state's paying for are getting CNAs. But you're step one in the healthcare industry. She can see her way into that, and then on to get her full nursing degree, and moving on forward. She's got a path forward that she can see, that she can do, that she believes in, and she didn't have that before. And you know, that's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. And I'm delighted for the educators that have changed my life. I'm delighted that we as the state of Kansas have invested so much in K-12 and in higher education, and we're going to continue to invest in K-12 and higher education. We put record amounts in K-12. We've increased our higher education funding $50 million more. And now I want to set a couple of additional targets for us to be able to do. In K-12, over the next 4 years, our objective is to get 85% of our high school graduates to have successfully one of three things: earned an industry-recognized technical certification, or been accepted into a higher education institution without remediation, or three, joined the military. So that on graduation night, most of our students have one or multiple options. I can go out into work or in a technical skill job and make more than minimum wage. I hope they go into technical skill work and work their way through college and get on and continue to get that degree. Or they can go into a higher education institution, a 4-year institution, without having to take remediation classes, or join the military. Right now we're in the mid-70s% on those numbers. We want to get that up to 85% on graduation night for our students. A second one that we want to do on higher education is we want to, over the next 4 years, have 60% of the adults in Kansas to have obtained either a degree or a technical certification from a world-class post-secondary institution. Right now we're in our low 50% on that. This is key for their future and for ours. The world isn't getting less complicated, and it isn't getting less technical. It's getting more complicated and more technical. And you need advanced education. You need a technical skill, you need a degree, you need that, and our workforce needs that. They need it for themselves, and we need it for Kansas. And we hit that in Kansas, we're going to attract more people in the state of Kansas. We're going to attract more jobs in the state of Kansas. To me, the Kansas comeback is all about the comeback of your kids and grandkids, or maybe in some cases your parents. And they're coming back to Kansas because there are options, there are activities, there are things happening here that they can look at and say, that's where I want to be. I don't need to be in Houston. I want to be in Kansas. This is the place where things are happening. This is the place where I can get a good education, a good job, have a good future, have a great life. Just had my oldest daughter return to Kansas from Washington, D.C. She's a teacher, loves teaching. And she teaches me, too, about teachers. She is passionate about those 5th graders that she has achieving and being what they can be. And she is mad when they're not. And she is pushing them. And she wants with all her heart to see them achieve what they can do. And that's what it is about in education. That's what a teacher does. That's what I love teachers about. That's why we're investing heavily in it. We've invested heavily in technical education. As you heard from this institution, we've got over a 200% enrollment increase in technical education on high school students since I've been in office. Huge growth in that field. And it's well worth it. The legislature said the state will step up and fund 100% of technical education while they're in high school. In Wichita, this is a great number. Wichita School District had 60 students going to Wichita Area Technical School before we started this program 3 years ago. They're at 1,600 now. From 60 to 1,600. And how many of those 1,600 would have dropped out of school? Because they were maybe a lot like me that, look, I liked vocational agriculture and the math and English, I can do it, but it just didn't turn my crank. I mean, I wasn't that interested in it. This I'm interested in. I love agriculture. I love public service. And it kept me going. It kept me moving in the system. And how many of those are we keeping in the system where they can achieve something that's a critical thing to them and their families? I love this state. I love what we've got taking place here. These 2 new objectives, and we've got a series of other ones that we're putting forward in this as well. And one I want to state in particular, because it's so important a lot to the rural areas. I oppose consolidation. I oppose forced consolidation of schools. I'm from a small school district, and for a lot of folks, when they look at this, and they want to know that the state government's not going to push them into consolidation. I oppose school districts being forced to consolidate. A lot of times for a town, if they lose their school, you just as well close the town up too. It's just not going to work. So we've got a lot of things moving forward. We've moved forward with more options locally. The legislature this past year, and there's several legislators that are here, passed the school equalization formula to get that formula from being disequalized as it got under the prior administration. It put another $130 million into the system. A number of people's property taxes are going down because of this. More money into the classroom as well. We've got record amounts of money going into the K-12 classroom. The formula is now back in equalization as the court has ordered and has now said it is. Now my opponent, Paul Davis, voted against that. He voted against putting more money into K-12. He voted against the equalization formula. And we provided more local control. School districts, particularly those in Johnson County, have been interested in the LOB lid going up some, and that was raised 2 points on a local option. If locals in Johnson County and other places that have that limit want to raise it, they can. That's been 2 decades since that change has happened, and we gave more local options. We gave more local options on tenure. Tenure was a state-mandated issue where the state said, you have to have this rule. Now this is a local option issue. If a local school district decides they want tenure, they can do it. If they decide otherwise, that's their choice. This is a local option for individuals to have. And that's what we want to see it have, is have local authority. I heard a quote from a legislator I served with years ago where the Federal Department of Education was saying they were better at educating students than local people were. And this was Senator Phil Graham at the time. He was debating the show, and the national people said, well, we understand this better, and we've got better plans. And Phil said, you do? And I said, yes, okay. If you understand our kids better than we do, what are their names? Give us their names. And the point of it is that local people, they look at this child every day. They are passionately wanting this child to succeed. And that's why you want it in local hands. And you want these options locally so that people locally can decide this is what's best. Because I want what's best for this child, and I know their name. And I know their family. And I know what they can do. And that's what I want to say a lot more. I'm delighted Phyllis is here on poverty programs. Because poverty rates we haven't continued to increase, but they're flat, and we need to do a lot more on poverty reduction in the state of Kansas. We need to do a lot more nationwide. We're at about 19% on child poverty, and that rate needs to go down. I want to see us do a lot more on individualized care. And I also want to say on poverty programs, we've put a lot into these federally and state since the Great Society, and the needle hadn't moved any. It stayed the same. And the answer isn't a little bit of money from the federal government to get somebody out of poverty. The answer is education, a job, and a strong family. That's how you get somebody out of poverty. And you can. And what we need to do is individualize our programs a lot more. And what Phyllis is doing is we're investing earlier and later, both at the before 4th grade and then those juniors and seniors in high school, to keep people from a track of going into poverty. And I want to see us do a lot more of what we can to get people work, education, and support a strong family structure. Because that's how you get somebody out of poverty. And it can happen. And we're going to do it here. So thanks for being a part of this. We're going to move forward aggressively. We've got a handout with more specifics on it, on our roadmap, Investing in Education 2.0. Grab one. Get in the conversation. Help us out. Help us carry this message on forward. I've been putting money in education. My opponent's been voting against putting money in education. We've got the numbers that have increased and have put more in it. Paul Davis talks about it and votes against putting money in education. That's wrong. Have a great day. God bless you all.